All right, today's lesson we are going to continue to solve quadratic equations, but this time it is through factoring, and we're going to do it through a real-world problem. Sometimes where this method actually being used. Like when you're constructing a frame for a rectangular photo, as shown, you want the frame to be the same width all the way around. That's represented by my x's. And the total area of the frame and the photo combined to be 315 square inches. What should the outer dimensions of the frame to be? So we'll have to make sure that when we're done doing the math of it, that we're actually answering the question being asked. What we do know is the dimensions of the photo. What we do need to find is the outer dimensions. So a plan would be to work with this, put together the best we can. So we know that the area of the whole thing is going to be length times width. So let's use what we know. The length of the whole area of this thing is going to be, I've got the 2 x's, including 11 inches. So that's right here. That's my 2 x's and my 11 inches. And then I need to take that, and because it's area, I'm multiplying that by the width. And the width is going to be made up, okay, there's a length. The width is going to be made up of 2 x's, again, plus this 17 inches distance. And together, that equals the 315. All right, so here's the equation I'm working with. So I'm going to FOIL it. And I end up with 4x squared plus 56x plus 187 equals my 315. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 315 from both sides and get 4x squared plus 56x minus 128 equals 0. And when I put it in this form, I can then solve it to find my solutions, where it crosses the x-axis. All right, so when I look at this whole thing, one thing that I can see right away that I can do some factoring. So I can, and that's how ultimately I want to solve this, but I'm going to factor out a 4. So if I factor out a 4 out of all of this, I end up with x squared plus 14x minus 32 equals 0. All right, and then, whoa, where'd it go? There she is. Now I'm going to go back and see if I can do some factoring here. I can look at these 2 pieces here, and I'm going to see what times what gets me 32. That when I add them together, I get the 14. I'm looking at my A term and my C term. I don't see any perfect squares here. Both of them aren't prime, so I'm pretty much just going to have to try something. And so what times what's going to get me to 32? I found that 16 and 2 get me to 32, but one of them needs to be negative. So I see that my 2 should be negative. 16 times negative 2 will get me to my negative 32. 16 plus negative 2 will get me to my 14. So this brings me down to 4 times. I can see that I've got my 2 pieces here. It's going to be x plus 16 and x minus 2. And this equals 0. So this leaves me with my 2 answers here. X plus 16 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. One of these is going to be 0, so that's why I can work with my or. I can then solve these. So x is going to be equal to negative 16, or x, once I add 2 to both sides, is going to be equal to 2. And when I look at my answer, is the dimension going to be -16 or is my answer going to be 2? The more reasonable one is my dimension is going to be a positive answer. But if I look back at the original question, the question is asking me what should the outer dimensions of the frame be? So if I'm looking for the outer dimensions of the frame, I see that x equals 2. So I need to replug that in as with my length and my width. So I know that it's double x plus 11, which is going to be 15. And I know that it's double x plus 17, which is going to be 21. So I know that it's going to be a 15 by 21 as my answer. All right, I'm going to go and put peanut butter on my toes and see if I can get the neighborhood squirrel to trim my toenails.